Hi guys, in today's video I will be showing you my personal opinion on what I think is 4 of the worst EPs slash albums and 4 good EPs and albums. So without further ado guys, let's get into the first one, shall we? So, the first one, we are going to start with the bad EPs and albums. Now these are albums and EPs, sorry, where I do feel like it was very underwhelming and just not that good. The first one we've got on this list is one that I really hated to put on this list because I wanted to enjoy it, because if you know the song Asher Memories, you'll know what I'm on about, but the rest of the EP is just not good at all. So my number 1 here on this list is Maya Law with their EP Underworld. Now the reason why I didn't really enjoy this EP is because it was very slam focused and just honestly not a right lot for me there to enjoy. I mean, Ashen Memories is a great track, and the last track on that EP, Black Box, that was also a really good track that I really enjoyed listening to. But the first 2 tracks on this EP just really spoilt it. It just wasn't that good. It was very long, it was very slammy, and just full of nonsensical breakdowns that just don't make sense. I would have rather had more songs like Ashen Memories on this EP because it just works better for me personally and my personal music taste. But let's move on to the next release we have on today's list, which is Sigrid, How to Let Go is the next one. Unfortunately guys, I'm not able to show a clip of the music in this video because it will get blocked worldwide, so I can't show you it. But my thoughts on this album is that it was very underwhelming and extremely it felt very dead. And I don't want to be mean because there is some good parts to this album, and especially the song Bad Life featuring Ollie from Bring Me The Horizon. That song is really good, but the rest of the album is either very slow and just not very good, or it's just very basic and just very uninteresting, in my opinion. I was expecting a lot more considering we got songs like Bad Life on the album. But let's move on to the next one on the list, which is Scary Kids, Scaring Kids Out of Light. Now, before we get into and properly talk about this, here's a clip of a song just to get you guys familiar if you haven't heard it already. I'm confused and scared to death. So the reason why this just didn't do it for me is because the songwriting was very all over the place. Some songs, maybe 1 or 2 of the songs were actually worthwhile listening to again, and then some songs, a lot of the songs were very convoluted with very weird sections and mixed choices. The overall sound quality wasn't really great in a lot of tracks. The hooks were just not there whatsoever, and it just this is definitely not an album worth listening for anybody's time. Nobody should be paying attention to this album because it is really just A very convoluted album, which is why I just didn't listen to the full thing and just went with the songs that I thought might be good. Because I heard a lot of people saying that this album just wasn't that good. But yeah, that's Scary Kids Scaring Kids out of light for me. But let's move on to the final bad EP slash album on this list, which is Block Party with their album Alpha Games. Now, this was just a very, very terrible album. This was just absolutely god awful. I don't know what happened to these guys because back in their Silent Alarm days, they were really, 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 really good. Like songs like Helicopter, Banquet from that era were really, 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 really classic songs that just really, really stood the test of time. Compared to this, which is feeling very basic, very stripped down. The lyrics are cringy, it's just all over the place, and just not that good at all. It's just very, very, very bad, and it just doesn't work for me. The songwriting's terrible, the lyrics are cringe. What happened to this band is the final thing I'm gonna say about this. But let's move on to the more positive side of things and talk about the good EP slash album, shall we? So the first good album we have on this list is Bad Omens with their album The Death of Peace of Mind. Now, I don't think I'll be able to show a single song to show you guys because it will most likely get blocked. But this was a really, really good album that I really enjoyed. Now, if you know me and my background with the music that I love, where I started to grow up, I don't know if I mentioned it or not, but a lot of it was pop music and stuff like that. So, before I was even into metal, this is the general sort of vibe I was going for with the clean sections. It sounded really, really, really good. This album is full of great songwriting. The songs are very hooky, very, very creative and all over the place, which for some people might not be what they would want, especially after the song Artificial Suicide released, because that song, of course, is a really good song, but compared to the rest of the songs on this album, it feels very, very different and just not what people were probably expecting. But for me, this album just really, really, really does it for me, and I am continuously listening to this album to this moment. But let's move on to the next track on the next album on today's list, which is Kendrick Lamar with his album Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Now, for the clip that you are about to see, I have had to use the clean versions of these songs, because obviously if I was to use the original versions, it would most likely get an 18 plus adult rating on this video, which is not what I want. So here's a clean version of the song N95 for an example of how good this album is.
Take off the foo-foo, take off the cloud chase, take off the Wi-Fi, take off the money phone, take off the car loan, take off the flex and the white loss.
The reason why this album is really, really good is because of the amount of creativity that comes across on this album. There is just so many, many good tracks on this album. For example, there is obviously N95, which you just heard. There's just nearly the entire album is great. The most interesting song that stands out on this album is in the first half, called We Cry Together. because the lyrics are very, very dark and very at the forefront of this song, and it just comes across as very uncomfortable, which is obviously why that's the specific song I haven't come back to on the album, because as much as it is creative, I do feel like it's a very disturbing song which I would not want to be blaring out in public. If you read the lyrics, you know the lyrics, you'll know exactly what I mean. But with songs like Father Time, Uniting Grief, what else? Anti Diaries. There's just so many good songs on this album. Now, this album, of course, is an album length which might not be for everybody, because this album is an hour and 20 minutes long, which obviously for a lot of people who watch my channel might not appreciate it because it's long, it's a very different genre, it's very all over the place, and yeah, just not everybody will love this album as much as I do. But let's move on to the third one we have on today's list, which is The Deer Hunter with Antime. Now, I don't know if I'm ever going to be saying the album title right, but here's a clip of their song called Ring to Nature. This is a song which I feel like which I really like on this album a lot. So here's a clip of the song.
At first there was no one to meddle.
The reason why I really like this album is because it's such a vibe. It's such a good relaxing time. It's such a good album with many good songwriting, very good songwriting on it, should I say. And a lot of the songs are really memorable, considering how long some of these songs actually are. Because on the album there is only eight tracks. Now, the song Lowtown is probably the worst song on the album, because I do feel like it loses its edge a bit with that song. It feels very out of place, very slow, and it just doesn't hit in the way that I feel like it should compared to the rest of the album. But if that song wasn't on the album, and regardless of it being on the album or not, this is a very well constructed album. And considering it's been 6 years since their last album, which I need to go back and listen to because I haven't really heard a lot of their older material, because I've only heard when was their last album? Their last album was Act 5, which I haven't heard yet. The only stuff before that in which I have heard is Waves from Act 4, called Rebirth and Reprise. And was there another song on that album? Yeah, that was the only song on that album. And there was another song which I can't remember the name of, but that song was also great on that album as well. But honestly, this is an album which I definitely see myself listening to a lot. I don't know if this will be my album of the year, because this is a very it's a very subtle album which you can just listen to whenever you want. It's just one of those types of albums, which of course might not be for everybody. But enough of me rambling on, let's move on to the final one on today's list, which is Conjure with their album Paphos. Now, this is an album which I have literally just reacted to the other day. The video isn't coming out till tomorrow, I think, on this channel, so stay tuned for that. But here is a song from the album which I really enjoyed, which the song is, if I remember the name of it already, Suffer Alone. Now, I picked this song out because I feel like I needed to grab a lot of people's attention to be able to get them interested in the album if they haven't already heard it. So here is a clip of Suffer Alone. The reason why I really enjoyed this album is because it's got a lot of different vibes going off. Because it will start very sludgy and heavy, and then it will go into more like prog territory with some of the heavy elements still obtained in there. But then you also get all the like hardcore stuff which you just heard in Suffer Alone, and it's just an overall very good collective album with lots of different vibes, big massive sounding songs, and to be fair, with how long the songs actually are, they actually go by really quickly and efficiently without them feeling like they drag too much. Now, the only things I would say is that towards the end, maybe a little bit of a drag, but for me personally, this album overall just really got a good vibe, and it just really works so well. And this is definitely an album which I'm going to have to replay over and over again, see where this lands by the end of the year. But this album is really well constructed, really well thought through, and if you guys haven't heard this album yet, do yourself a favour and listen to this. But guys, that is the end of this video. Let me know what if you agree with me in the comment section down below. Let me know if you found anything new through this video or not, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, guys. But until the next video, guys, peace.